The following podcast you're about to listen to is brought to you by the Push Start Media Network, where everything you do in life begins with pushing start. Another edition of the Sports You Enthusiasm Podcast. You know me. I am your humble host, Bryce Benjamin, along with my guy, your favorite co-host, my favorite co-host, Mr. Ed Rueter. Fresh haircut in the building and everything. How you doing, sir?
Oh, great, man. I brought it all the way down, buzzed it all the way down, fresh for the election.
Yeah, man.
Actually, neither of those two are combined, but I figured I'd throw all the current events together, my haircut and the election. So, vote. Did you get out there and vote, Bryce?
Yes, I did. I voted right before I came into work today. So happy to get that done, get that off my chest. And yeah, man, how about yourself?
I sure did. I voted early on one of the earlier days. So I got that done as well, thinking that I might beat some long poll lines. Turns out that they were long just about every day. I think we might have some record turnout this year. So interested to see how it turns out. I'm going to be up all night probably watching this thing and seeing where the next 4 years are going.
Yeah, man. My cousin, she used to have like a big election day party every time the election was on. Unfortunately, this year, because of COVID, couldn't have it. But I used to look forward to those, man. It's supposed to be a good time, you know. Get drunk, eat food, you know, talk shit.
Absolutely, man.
You know how that goes. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. This election's coming down to the wire. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be right there with you, staying up and watching this.
It's been pretty wild. All of the swing states have been back and forth. The four big ones are now all reporting in Donald Trump's direction. Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Florida. They just updated, and Pennsylvania and North Carolina swung towards Trump as well. So, it's going to come right down to the wire, it looks like. So I'm interested to see how it goes, man. Should be an interesting night.
Yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting. You know how this shit goes. But, I mean, nonetheless, man, we've had a pretty good week of sports, I would say so myself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, football, I'm not going to lie. Sunday was a Debbie Downer day for me.
I'll bet, man. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You want to let the people know why? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, shit. Where do you want me to start? First of all, we lost.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's start with the game.
We lost to our arch nemesis and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, you know, I had a strange feeling in the back of my mind we was going to lose this game. And, you know, like I'm a sports superstitious guy. Like I'm not a regular superstitious guy. Like, you know, the black cats and step on a crack and break a mirror, all that shit. Like I'm not into all that. That doesn't affect me. But
you're not superstitious. You're just a little stitious.
Exactly. Actually, that's a good way to put it. But when it comes to sports, I'm very superstitious on those. Like, like I feel like if I talk shit on social media about how my team is going to just destroy whoever team that we're playing, we're probably going to lose that game. And of course, you know, it's Pittsburgh week. I got to talk shit. I got to go harass Steelers fans. And sure enough, we lost that game.
Yeah, man.
And then, you know, not that we just lost the game, and it's how we lost it. Like Lamar just completely bombed that game, bro. I think that was probably the worst game I think I ever seen him play. Where, yeah, he threw 2 touchdowns and a couple of highlight runs here and there, but fucking 4 turnovers, really should have been about 6 because they dropped a couple of interceptions and he, you know, got a fumble back. And it was just a terrible performance by him. And we're in a game where we just completely controlled the line of scrimmage. Like we ran for over 250 yards and lost. Like I never seen that before. Where a team, you just completely dominate the line and you're running all over the team and, you know, fuck around and lose the game. That was terrible, bro. So, and then on top of that, we suffer huge, like we lose our tackle who we just paid $100 million to. He's done for the season, dislocated and fractured ankle on a freak play. Our right guard, rookie right guard, starting right guard, he's done for the season, IR. It's like, shit. So we just lost 2 linemen right off the bat. And on top of that, our best player overall on our team, arguably our best defensive player, Marlon Humphrey, he catches fucking COVID. It's like, yo, how could this shit get any worse?
Yeah, that's a rough week for you there, pal. That's going to be a tough one to come back from. The only good news is, from what I understand, that most of the other players that were put on the COVID watch list or the COVID reserve list have an opportunity to come off of that list prior to this Sunday's game against Indianapolis. So there is a silver lining on that cloud, perhaps, if they could get Queen back and Judon back and some of those guys off of that list prior to Sunday. The one thing that I would say is maybe the toughest of all for you would have to be that the Ravens kind of played the game that they wanted to play. They, as you said, manhandled the Steelers at the line of scrimmage. They outrushed them. They seemed to play the game that they wanted to play and still lost. And I suppose, you could look at it as, well, if they played again, the Ravens have an excellent chance at winning if they can run that game script again. The difference is Lamar Jackson has to play much, much better. So you can look at it kind of one of two ways as far as I'm concerned. You can think to yourself, well, it's not that bad because we had him beat. It's just Lamar had a bad game. Or, you can look at it as, damn, we did everything we could and it still wasn't enough to beat the Steelers. I think in a second matchup, the Ravens could definitely win this game. I just think that my only worry, if I'm you, is that opposing teams now kind of have a playbook on Lamar. It's like they're not allowing him to get out of the pocket and they're forcing him to throw the football where he's exposed a little bit as a passer. Mm-hmm. So I think that fear of Lamar Jackson that I had last year is kind of gone. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm an opposing defensive coordinator, I feared Lamar Jackson. Like what are we going to do with this guy? Now it's like, I don't know. You kind of keep him contained inside the pocket. You don't let him step up in there. You keep a linebacker close to kind of spy him in the middle, and you make him throw over the top. And it seems like there's a bit of a recipe for success there. So, yeah, man, I absolutely hear you on the worrisome week that you had. But the good news is they're at 5-2. They're still a very good football team. Even if they were to lose because of this COVID mess against Indianapolis sitting at 5-3, I think they're for sure playoff bound. And it's just going to come down to good Lamar Jackson play in the playoffs to see how far you guys go.
Hey, man, I got to tell you, I really do appreciate your encouraging words because we're fucked in my mind, bro. Like you lose your best tackle. All right. You lose your best lineman and then you lose your other starting right guard. Lamar played like shit. And this like the Pittsburgh. The last game he played against Pittsburgh was last year in week number 5. All right. And which again, he played just as bad, 3 interceptions and just looked terrible. And my fear isn't necessarily on Lamar. I feel like Lamar is going to be able to bounce back and he should be able to have a good game. My fear really, obviously the defense and shit like that, but our offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, this dude, it doesn't seem like he understands how to adapt and how to come up with a counter game plan to counteract what the defenses are doing against our offense. Like, and like I'm watching the Pittsburgh game, Rueter, and they was literally running the exact same defense that Tennessee was running and things of that nature. They rushed 4, they kept a spy, and they just played cover 2. And they made Lamar try to just, pick them apart. Where it's like, okay, you see what they're doing. And if you're an offensive coordinator, you better know how to beat cover 2. I know how to beat cover 2. I've played Madden. I'm not even a fucking offensive coordinator, but I know how to beat that damn defense. And it's like, yo, you were not running any routes that is like underneath routes. I didn't see one drag route or underneath route where the defense are dropping back 10 yards. You run Hollywood or Duvernay, and they catch the ball. Now they got room to maneuver. That's an easy 15 to 20 yard gain almost every time they touch the ball. Never run none of those. All right. Run verticals down the seam with 2 tight ends to drag out the safeties and then run a receiver right behind them on a post route. Like it's simple shit, bro. And it was never ran. It was never called. we're having great success running the ball, and I like to see that, and it was good to see that they was trying to stick with that. But it's just like, yo, you got to make these adjustments to put Lamar in the best position to perform, and you're not doing it. You're terrible offensive plays. Lamar, and I'm not even excusing Lamar whatsoever. He played terrible. I'm holding him accountable as well. You got to be playing better. You got to be able to make those reads better. You got to understand when the throw's not there to get rid of it and not try to force shit. And like, it's just simple stuff to me watching at home as a fan. It's easy for me to say, obviously, but it's just simple stuff where it's like, yo, how are you unable to make those adjustments, especially after halftime when you see what they're doing? Pittsburgh was able to adjust. Pittsburgh seen what Baltimore was doing on defense. We was blitzing the shit out of Ben Roethlisberger. They had 64 yards in the first half. They adjust. They go 5 out, spread out the defense. Okay, you can't blitz no more because we're just going to beat you with quick passes now. And they was able to, turn around their game plan. But we have, it's just like an inept ability for our offensive coordinator to do the same thing. This shit is so frustrating. I'm tired of seeing it. Like, I've seen it in both of our losses against Kansas City and in Pittsburgh. And even in some of our wins. Like, come on, man. This shit is frustrating as shit. I'm sorry not to be rambling about my Ravens, but this is not just a podcast.
Hey, man, no, I hear you, man. But again, if you're taking any optimism from this, it's that, they played their game plan. Lamar had a terrible day. They battled some injuries, and it took a strong second half where the Steelers outscored the Ravens 21-7 in the second half to win by 4 points. An undefeated Steelers team. So, again, my only concern for you guys really is Lamar's play, particularly when it comes to facing tough opponents. Like you've seen, the Chiefs can be his kryptonite. He seems to underperform against Patrick Mahomes, and now he didn't have the greatest game here against Pittsburgh. And as you said, the last game against Pittsburgh wasn't his best showing either. So, yeah, man, I'd keep my eye out on Lamar for playing in big games. But as you said, as much as you are a Ravens fan, this is not a Ravens podcast, right? So how about we talk about my boys for a minute? What do you think?
It makes zero sense how y'all won that game.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes absolutely zero sense that I won that game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It may be just one of those things, just one of those games where turnovers burns a team. You know what I mean? Turnovers aside, Miami didn't look like the better team in any phase of the game, aside from, of course, the turnovers. And obviously, that's a huge part of football. Obviously, obviously that's the thing. Fluke plays and special teams, and you squeak by at home the Rams by 11, despite defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns, interceptions. And the biggest takeaway from me from this, because there's going to be games like that. There's going to be games that you win like that in the NFL, and there's going to be games that you lose like that in the NFL. With this level of parity in the NFL, where the teams are so close to one another, and on any given Sunday, any team can win, you're going to have games where you run into these turnovers and easy scores that determine the outcomes of games. Big takeaway for me is Tua's performance. I thought kind of underwhelming. His first couple of drives, he looked scared. He looked out of his element, and he looks small out there. He looks really, really small. And the thing is, with small, we've seen you can be smaller. I'm talking under 6'1", 6'2", underneath there, and still be okay. You've got guys like Russ, you got guys like Kyler Murray doing really well right now, but those guys are incredibly mobile. And incredibly athletic. Tua doesn't strike me as incredibly athletic. So it seems to me like the mold that he's going to have to fill to try to be a successful quarterback is that Drew Brees mold. And that's a tough route, my friend. There are, for every, big, tall, strong-armed quarterback, in the history books, the Dan Marinos, the Joe Montanas, the John Elways, there's only really one Drew Brees, the short, accurate, not cannon-armed pocket passer.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tall order, and it's so early to call it, but I really wish that, maybe Herbert was the call. But we'll see. We'll see what he can do. Maybe the kid's special, and hope for the best, I guess, man.
I think so. I didn't watch this game in full, obviously. I was watching. I had Red Zone on one screen and I had the Ravens game on the other.
Okay.
And from what I was seeing, whenever they flipped to Miami's games, and when I watched the highlights afterwards, it seems like that you guys had a game plan to try and protect him as much as possible. You didn't